Hello everyone and welcome back to Hitbox visualization explanation videos. Today, as a lot of you requested, we're going to be taking a look at Joker's hitboxes. Joker is one of the characters in Ultimate I've really wanted to take a look at in terms of hitboxes. A lot of them seem to be really strange, and when you put Arsene into the mix, it gets really crazy. But there is no better way to figure it out than to take a look. As usual, I have to give thanks to the people who have made these hitbox visuals. These in particular were made by Invy and Meshima. There's going to be links in the description for everything, as well as for the program that was used to make these hitbox visuals. Anyways, let's begin. Actually, before we begin, I have to talk about Arsene. Arsene is much like other combat mechanics, being an extra boost to characters that only appear under certain conditions. In the case with Arsene, the only way to activate it is by taking damage or armoring hitboxes with Rebel Guard. The gauge also fills over time, but it takes a long while before it gets fully charged, so you're better off using one of the other methods. By taking damage, you need to take about 70% before Arsene appears. Arsene then stays around for around 30 seconds, but every time you get hit, you lose a second or two off your gauge. Arsene, unlike other combat mechanics, does not affect Joker's attributes in any ways. The only thing Arsene changes is the way Joker's hitboxes work. Sometimes they replace Joker's hitboxes outright, sometimes they overlap, and sometimes both. It changes from move to move and is honestly very confusing. If that wasn't enough, the way they programmed Arsene is also really unusual. But to explain that, I kinda have to explain how hitboxes work. We can start by using his normal jab as an example. All hitboxes in Smash have a corresponding hitbox IDs. Every single hitbox in this case has an ID along with the frame data for that hitbox. In this case, there are 4 hitboxes. The hitbox IDs in this case goes from 0 to 3, since there is 4 hitboxes, with the red one being ID 0, the purple one being ID 1, and the yellow being ID 2 and 3 overlapped. When 2 hitboxes overlap, the lower ID will outprioritize the other, meaning if your opponent is hit in this very tiny area here, where ID 0 and 1 overlap, the red one will take priority despite both hitboxes being in contact. This is how most hitboxes work. However, Arsene uses something called hitbox part values. Without getting too much into it, this basically makes it so Arsene can have hitboxes independent of Joker. This means that Arsene's hitboxes are exempt from the normal hitbox ID prioritization. So to use the same example, Jab 1 with Arsene looks like this. It has 2 additional hitboxes layered over the previous 4. However, because these new hitboxes have different part values, when these hitboxes overlap on a hit, they both connect. This is however not always the case, sometimes the hitboxes are replaced outright. I'll be making note of what kind of hitboxes each move has, so don't worry about that. Either way, let's continue. Most jabs are usually pretty straight to the point, however this is Joker, and Joker has to make everything difficult. Joker's jab without Arsene is pretty normal. In terms of hitboxes, it's pretty much what you would expect. All the hitboxes have these same values, so what you're looking at is what you get. However, with Arsene, things get a little more complicated. The first 2 hits of jab are mostly fine, they follow the part value mechanic I explained earlier, having distinct Joker and Arsene hitboxes that both connect because of the part value difference, resulting in jab 1 dealing 2.8 damage instead of the normal 2%. And then jab 3 comes along and has to ruin everything. In the case of jab 3, only some of Arsene's hitboxes have the part value difference, meaning that Arsene's hitboxes will override some of Joker's hitboxes. The weird thing in this case is that the hitboxes that do override Joker's hitboxes are identical to the hitboxes they are overriding, meaning that nothing really changes. The only Arsene hitboxes that don't override anything is the green ones the farthest away. Anyways, that's jab. There's a lot of finicky details in these hitboxes, so I kinda have to proceed slowly so I don't miss anything important. That said, I'll be leaving out some minor things that I don't really think are relevant moving forward. And just as I said that, we actually have a fairly normal looking hitbox. Without Arsene, F-Tilt consists of 2 hitboxes. The only difference between them is that the purple one has a slightly different angle. The second hit is simply a single hitbox that launches them away. Even with Arsene, the only difference here is on the second hit, where an additional hitbox is added. This hitbox does have a different part value, so they both take effect should you land them both. Aside from that, the move also has a bit more active frames when Arsene is active. You can also angle left tilt, however, the hitboxes don't really change, they're just angled differently. You know what, maybe jab was a bad apple. Perhaps Joker's hitboxes aren't as bad as I thought. Oh no, that's a lot of text. Well, it was fun while it lasted. Up tilt has a ton of different hitboxes. Even without Arsene, it's a bit excessive. The first few frames serve as a scoop that tries to launch you up into the multi-hits above Joker, and they all have appropriate angles to do so. The hits after that is just a single hitbox above Joker with a launcher at the end. The only thing that changes when Arsene shows up is that the multi-hits get an extra hitbox layered over. It has a different part value so both hitboxes connect. The launcher hitbox, however, is the same except that the hitbox is slightly stronger. Down tilt is actually pretty straightforward. Without Arsene, down tilt only has a single hitbox. It launches upwards, which does allow Joker to get some follow-ups afterwards, kinda similar to a lot of slide kicks. The only notable thing about the hitbox is that the angle slightly changes as the move goes on. When Uncle Arsene is here, the move has an additional hitbox overlaid over Joker's hitbox. The Arsene hitbox does have a different part value, so both hitboxes will connect. Aside from that, it is a surprisingly simple hitbox. Joker's dash attack is very reminiscent of a few other dash attacks. Zero Suits comes to mind. As for the hitboxes themselves, the first hit of the move has 6 different hitboxes, 3 for grounded opponents and 3 for aerial. They have different angles in order to set up into the second hit of the move. The second hit of the move only has 2 hitboxes. They simply launch the opponent away and have the same damage and knockback. When it's Arsene time, the first hit is the same, but the second one has one of the hitboxes replaced with a notably bigger hitbox, with a different part value, whereas the purple hitbox still remains. I've seen this move fail to connect into the second hit from time to time, but that really is just the nature of multi-hit moves. I don't think there is a single multi-hit move in the game that does not drop from time to time. Before we move on, here is Joker's grabs. As usual, the grabs are not really that interesting, but the grab range is actually quite a bit better than I was expecting. Then again, I've had stuff like this happen to me, so I don't know. Okay, so now that we got all the jabs and tilts out of the way, how about we bring out the big guns? Or the small guns. Either way, there's gonna be guns. Joker's gun has a lot of different variations, so for the sake of simplicity, I'll be splitting them up into 3 categories. Neutral gun, gun jump, and aerial gun spin. Neutral gun has 3 different hitboxes, and boy, that's some range if I've ever seen it. The closest one deals about 5% and has some minor knockback. The middle one has a little less of both, only dealing 3%, and the farthest one deals 1% and has no knockback at all. This is the case for all variations of neutral gun. It does not matter if you're charging back or forward, the hitboxes are always the same. With Arsene, the hitboxes shoot more rapidly and the range is actually increased a little bit. The damage on the inner hitbox is also increased slightly, but mostly it's just the fact that he shoots 3 times instead of 1. Gun jump is a little bit more complex. There are 2 different variations of this move, but they use the same hitboxes. First of all, I'm getting some serious Bayonetta flashbacks here. Luckily, Joker is not quite that broken. The first variation is the actual gun jump. There are 4 different hitboxes here. The red closest to Joker is the most powerful, dealing 3%, while the other ones deal 0.7%. The same is true for the grounded jump version. The only difference being that the grounded jump version has a lot more knockback in order to combo into the other hits easier. With Arsene, the guns shoot more rapidly, and that's about it. Aside from that, these certainly are some hitboxes. It's a very good move for getting back to the ground, because of the massive disruptive and disjointed hitboxes. The last one is aerial gun spin, where Joker shoots his gun all around in the air. This one is actually pretty simple, and only consists of 2 different hitboxes. A big one close to Joker, and the actual shoot hitbox itself. Again, Arsene only makes the shots more frequent and nothing else. Now, side B and up B's hitboxes can't be visualized for various reasons. The same is true for the Arsene variations, but I mean up B doesn't even have a hitbox, so it's not like it matters that much. Down B, however, does have visuals. First, there is Rebel Guard, that being the hitbox that comes out after armoring a hit with Rebel Guard. It's pretty huge, but that's not really surprising. Most counters tend to have very big hitboxes. It's a huge circle around Joker. It is, however, slightly displaced, making it have slightly more range behind Joker. Besides that, there's not much to say about it. The Arsene version is a bit more of a truer counter. The actual counter trigger hitbox looks like this. The move can both counter and reflect, but only the counter actually has a hitbox, which is, quite the hitbox. I guess they just wanted to make sure that his counter did not miss, like, ever. Which is actually a problem with a lot of counters in Smash, but I do feel like this is perhaps a little excessive. It's very DLC, but what else is new? Alright, on to his aerials. Neutral Air's hitbox is surprisingly small. It is one singular hitbox around his dagger, which is not exactly the biggest dagger ever, and it doesn't even cover the entire thing. Joker swings the knife around him, and the move does last for a while, which does make the move cover a fair amount of area despite being such a small hitbox. With Arsene, surprisingly enough, the only thing that changes is that a second hitbox is added that mirrors the first one. Unusually enough, the Arsene hit is actually weaker than the Joker hit. With the 2 hitboxes rotating around like this, it's very likely to at least land one of them, despite them being pretty small. But I was really expecting the hitboxes to be larger in this case, especially when you look at the particle effects from Arsene. But sometimes hitboxes are smaller than you might expect. It happens, even to DLC characters. The first hit of Forward has 6 different hitboxes overlaid. 3 hitboxes for grounded opponents and 3 for aerial opponents. The grounded only hitbox launches upwards, while the aerial have an auto-link angle that links into the second part of the move, which is a pretty standard launcher hit. With Arsene, this move is pretty ridiculous. The first hit is mostly the same, but the second hit is replaced with 2 hitboxes, which are absolutely massive. The two hitboxes does have different part values, so both of them will connect. Aside from that, the hitboxes are just big and hurdy. Back here is pretty weird. The first frame has 3 identical cylinder hitboxes under Joker's arm. It's pretty impressive all things considered. They really made sure you can hit people behind you when buffering a short hop back here, even though it still misses. The second frame is much the same, except that the hitboxes are spaced out a bit. With Arsene, the move is partially replaced with Arsene hitboxes while maintaining some of Joker's hitboxes. And the Arsene hitboxes have different part values than Joker's. This is just another of Joker's many insane hitboxes. Well, just as I say that, up air's hitbox is actually pretty small all things considered. It's only present at the very edge of Joker's legs. The multi-hit is the same for the entirety of the move and only changes when the launcher hit comes out, which is only slightly bigger. With Arsene, the only thing that changes is that the launcher hit has an additional hitbox with different part values, which is kinda weird seeing how the sound effect does change for the multi-hit part of the move, even though it's identical to normal up air, which is kinda strange, but I get why they did it. It sounds a lot more satisfying to land the move with Arsene, I have to say. Down air is a knife swipe below Joker. The hitbox is pretty simple, consisting of 2 identical hitboxes. The move does not spike and simply launches the opponent forwards. With Arsene, however, the move does get a pretty hefty spike. The only thing that changes is that a spike hitbox is added halfway through the move. Because of this, it's very possible that you can miss the Arsene hitbox and only land the Joker hit. But that is a small price to pay for having such a good spike. It's very disjointed, being about the size of a sortie down air. Except that in this case it's a top hat wearing fellow stomping his high heel shoes down. Which should be just about as strong as a sortie if my math checks out. Finally, there is smash attacks. Down smash has 4 hitboxes. They are, however, all identical. It covers the ground it's supposed to, standard down smash affair. With Arsene, they just decided to keep all the other hitboxes and just slapped a giant hitbox on top of them. Sure, why not? As usual, the Arsene hit has a different part value, but aside from that, it's very simple. Up smash has some weird hitboxes. The first frame has 3 hitboxes, 1 close to the ground to make sure that the move does not whiff up close, and then 2 on his arm and knife respectively. The hitboxes all have the same damage and knockback, because I guess they just didn't want to give him any sour spots ever. When Arsene shows up, all that changes is that a massive hitbox is added to the side above Joker, and before the move ends, it's directly above Joker, and it has different part values as usual. Finally, there's F smash. It is a swipe in front of Joker, and its hitbox is pretty strange. It's a cylinder hitbox in front of Joker. The hitbox just kind of stays there for a few frames. It looks kinda weird. With Arsene, the hitbox does get quite a bit bigger. It gains a fair amount of extra reach both horizontally and vertically. The move is also insanely strong if you get both the Joker and Arsene hitboxes. It can kill really early because of its high knockback growth. Aside from that, the hitboxes certainly are colorful. And that's about it. Joker's hitboxes are quite the undertaking. There's a lot of small stuff I left out because if I didn't, the video would be about 30 minutes long. And most of it is not really that important anyways. The data behind Joker is not exactly the easiest thing to navigate either, so I don't really mind. Either way, if there's a character you want me to cover in a future video, let me know in the comments and I'll consider it for next time. Oh, and I also have a Twitter you can follow if you want to. I post various things there, so if you're interested in that, there's a link in the description. Anyways, that's all I had to say. So until next time, thank you for watching.